If you could find yourself on this sign, then you are of God's chosen people. Judah, Benjamin, Levi, on down. The name of our Lord is Eye, Asher, Eye. If you could find yourself anywhere on this sign. And on this side, these are the names of the nations that has us in captivity. These are the names of the nations where our Lord has put us on restriction. These people are the majority. They are on a restriction in a whole nation for being in the congregation of the son of a virgin. And that is something that our Lord detests. Detest meaning cursed by God. But we are all brothers and sisters if you could find yourself anywhere on this sign. And to cross back over to your tribes, you will have to get the first 5 books of your very Bible, every Bible that you have. Our Father being Eye, Asher, Eye, the progenitor of these 12 tribes, and thus naming it Israel. And I'm just getting the sign myself like 5 months ago, and so now I'm spreading it about to everyone that, this is us, because we're in bondage right now. America. This is modern day America, and America isn't written in the scriptures anywhere. It's a brand new country. The America is only like not even 400 years old, maybe 200 years old, and we're in captivity over here as one big melting pot for the children of Israel, where the Lord our God has put us on restriction. A God being something that could do some things that the human mind can't comprehend, like put all of his children on restriction for doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. And now we're in the land of the living, where we have free will, and we're to restrain ourselves from copying the practices of this land, to inherit the good land that our Father has promised our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And when we enter that good land, we can't do any other practices or act as we act here. And the Lord our God has left us with some laws, statutes, and commandments that we must abide by to the best of our ability here in captivity. And when He parted us with some things that we ought to do, and He asked some things that He asked us to do, some things He told us to do, and some things He commanded us to do. And right now I'm giving you some things that He told us to do, and we are to abide by if we want to, stay off of restriction, because that's not what we want from our Father. Because He makes His word good, and as we can see, He means what He says, and He says what He means. And in Deuteronomy 31:7, Moses called Joshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel, "Be strong and resolute, for it is you who shall go with this people into the land that the Lord swore to their fathers to give them, and it is you who shall apportion it to them, and the Lord Himself will go before you. He will be with you, He will not fail you or forsake you. Fear not, and be not dismayed." And and Moses wrote down the teaching and gave it to the priests, the sons of Levi, who carried the ark of the Lord's covenant, and to all the elders of Israel. And in Deuteronomy 31:10, as Moses instructed them, every 7th year, the year set for remission at the Feast of Booths, when all Israel comes to appear before the Lord your God in the place that He will choose, you shall read this teaching aloud in the presence of all Israel. Gather the people, men, women, children, and the strangers in your communities, that they may hear and so learn to revere the Lord your God, and to observe faithfully every word of this teaching. Their children too, who have not had the experience, shall hear and learn to revere the Lord your God, as long as they live in the land that you are to cross the Jordan to possess. And then these are the things that the Lord our God has told us to do. and the Lord said to speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you in Leviticus 25, when you enter the land that I assign to you, the land shall observe a Sabbath of the Lord. 6 years you may sow your field, and 6 years you may prune your vineyard and gather in the yield. But in the 7th year the land shall have a Sabbath of complete rest, a Sabbath of the Lord. You shall not sow your field or prune your vineyard. You shall not reap the aftergrowth of your harvest or gather the grapes of your untrimmed vines. It shall be a year of complete rest for the land. But you may eat whatever the land during its Sabbath will produce. You, your male and female slaves, the hired and bound laborers who live with you, and your cattle and the beasts in your land may eat all its yield. You shall count off 7 weeks of years, 7 times 7 years, so that the period of 7 weeks of years gives you a total of 49 years. Then you shall sound the horn loud in the 7th month on the 10th day of the month, day of atonement. You shall have the horn sounded throughout your land, and you shall hallow the 50th year, the 50th year being Jubilee. And these are the things that our Lord has parted us with, that it be not possible to do in captivity. But when the Lord assigned us some land, then we can observe all the law, statutes, and commandments, and not just to the best of our ability. But when we be able to serve all these laws, statutes, and commandments, that be the day that we do rejoice. And the Lord is telling us this right here. And that's the day that we're holding fast to right now as we speak. You shall proclaim release throughout the land for all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. Each of you shall return to his holding, and each of you shall return to his family. That 50th year shall be a jubilee for you. You shall not sow, neither shall you reap the aftergrowth or harvest the untrimmed vines, for it is a jubilee. It shall be holy to you. Holy meaning deserving deep respect, so the 50th year deserves your deep respect. You may only eat the growth direct from the field. In this year of Jubilee, each of you shall return to his holding. When you sell property to your neighbor, or buy any from your neighbor, you shall not wrong one another. In buying from your neighbor, you shall deduct only for the number of years since the Jubilee. And in selling to you, he shall charge you only for the remaining crop years. The more such years, the higher the price you pay. The fewer such years, the lower price. For what he is selling you is a number of harvests. Do not wrong one another, but fear your God, for I, the Lord, am your God. You shall observe my laws and faithfully keep my rules, that you may live upon the land in security. The land shall yield its fruit, and you shall eat your fill, and you shall live upon it in security. And should you ask, what are we to eat in the 7th year, if we may neither sow nor gather in our crops? I will ordain my blessing for you in the 6th year, so that it shall yield a crop sufficient for 3 years. When you sow in the 8th year, you will still be eating old grain of that crop. You will be eating the old until the 9th year, until its crops come in. But the land must not be sold beyond reclaim, for the land is mine. You are but strangers, resident with me. And the Lord is telling you that we are but strangers in his land. And because we are his treasured people above all the people of the earth, these are his rules and his laws and his commandments that we must abide by, to be in accordance with the covenant that he set with us. Throughout the land that you hold, you must provide for the redemption of the land. If your kinsman is in straits and has to sell part of his holding, his near redeemer shall come and redeem what his kinsman has sold. If a man has no one to redeem for him, but prospers and acquires enough to redeem with, he shall compute the years since its sale, refund the difference to the man to whom he sold it, and return to his holding. If he lacks sufficient means to recover it, what he sold shall remain with the purchaser until the Jubilee. In the Jubilee year it shall be released, and he shall return to his holding. So in the Jubilee year is like having a reset button. You reset a lot of things. If a man sells a dwelling house in a walled city, it may be redeemed until a year has elapsed since its sale. The redemption period shall be a year. If it is not redeemed before a full year has elapsed, the house in the walled city shall pass to the purchaser beyond reclaim throughout the ages. It shall not be released in the Jubilee. For houses in villages that have no encircling walls shall be classed as open country. They may be redeemed, and they shall be released through the Jubilee. As for the cities of the Levites, the houses in the cities they hold, the Levites shall forever have the right of redemption. such property as may be redeemed from the Levites. Houses sold in a city they hold shall be released through the Jubilee, for the houses in the cities of the Levites are their holdings among the Israelites. But the unenclosed land about their cities cannot be sold, for that is their holding for all times. If your kinsman being in straits comes under your authority, and you hold him as though a resident alien, let him live by your side. Do not exact from him advance or accrue interest, but fear your God. Let him live by your side as your kinsman. Do not lend him your money at advance interest, or give him your food at accrued interest. I, the Lord, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to give you the land of Canaan to be your God. If your kinsman under you continues in straits, and must give himself over to you, do not subject him to the treatment of a slave. He shall remain with you as a hired or bound laborer. He shall serve with you only until the Jubilee year. Then he and his children with him shall be free of your authority. He shall go back to his family and return to his ancestral holding. For they are my servants, whom I freed from the land of Egypt. They may not give themselves over into servitude. You shall not rule over him ruthlessly. You shall fear your God. Such male and female slaves as you may have, it is from the nations round about you that you may acquire male and female slaves. You may also buy them from among the children of aliens resident among you, or from their families that are among you, whom they begot in your land. These shall become your property. You may keep them as a possession for your children after you, for them to inherit as property for all time. Such you may treat as slaves. But as for your Israelite kinsmen, no one shall rule ruthlessly over the other. If a resident alien among you has prospered, and your kinsman being in straits comes under his authority and gives himself over to the resident alien among you, or to an offshoot of an alien's family, he shall have the right of redemption even after he has given himself over. One of his kinsmen shall redeem him, or his uncle or his uncle's son shall redeem him, or anyone of his family who is of his own flesh shall redeem him. Or if he prospers, he may redeem himself. He shall compute with his purchaser the total from the year he gave himself over to him until the Jubilee year. The price of his sale shall be applied to the number of years, as though it were for a term as a hired laborer, under the other's authority. If many years remain, he shall pay back for his redemption in proportion to his purchase price. And if few years remain until the Jubilee year, he shall so compute. He shall make payment for his redemption according to the years involved. He shall be under his authority as a laborer hired by the year. He shall not rule ruthlessly over him in your sight. If he has not been redeemed in any of those ways, he and his children with him shall go free in the Jubilee year. For it is me that the Israelites are my servants. They are my servants, whom I freed from the land of Egypt. I, the Lord, your God. And the Lord is telling us these things for us to revere him and to understand that, he makes his word good. And for us to hold fast to him means that we're living the laws, statutes, and commandments to the best of our ability, which is the first 5 books of your very Bible, every Bible that you have. And if you can't understand the fact that our Lord is God, and you want to stay copying the practices of that other land, then that means that you will keep calling yourselves Negroes, Indians, and Haitians, when we're Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Zebulun, Issachar, on down. And our Lord created the heavens and the earth for us. Everything under the heavens and everything on the earth belongs to our Lord. And if we're on this side of the sign, then that means that we understand that we make sacrifices and offerings on an altar, and we are the minority. But on this side of the sign, we are on restriction for being in the congregation of the Son of a Virgin, which is the very thing that our Father detests. Our Father being a God, Eye, Asher, Eye. A God being something that can do some things that the human mind can't comprehend, like putting a whole nation into captivity and having us named after these nations to be corrected for a wrong. and to understand the fact that our Father is the Father of Exodus 20 and 11, who created the heavens, the earth, and the sea, and all that is in them in 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested. Thus we shall do the same. On the Sabbath is a day of complete rest, which is a Saturday to us here in captivity. The name of our Lord is Yeh Asher Yeh.